Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Today I am going to deliver a lesson for class 12th subject zoology. My today's topic is about the immunity. Since in our previous topic we discussed about various diseases and their causative agents like protozoa, viruses, bacteria, etc. Now, every day we are exposed to these pathogens through food, water, air, etc. But every time we don't suffer from a disease or we don't fall ill. Why is this so? It is because our body has an ability to defend these disease-producing germs. This ability of an organism to fight the disease-causing organisms, or we call them as pathogens, is actually the immunity. Basically, immunity is the self-preparedness of the body against the invasions of microbes. Immunity also includes defense against non-microbial agents such as malignancy. Now, what are antigens? Antigen is basically any foreign particle. It may be a microbe or any non-microbial particle. Now, the types of immunity. So far the types of immunity are concerned, immunity is broadly categorized into two types. Number one is innate immunity, or is also known as non-specific immunity. And the second type is acquired immunity, or specific type of immunity. Now, first of all, we will discuss about the innate immunity. Innate immunity is a non-specific type of defense present from the time of birth. And this type of immunity is basically inherited from the parents to the offsprings. It is also called a non-specific type of immunity because it behaves equally for every disease-producing germ. It is not specific for any one type of bacteria, but it provides immunity against any type of pathogen. That is why it is also known as non-specific type of immunity. This innate immunity provides different types of barriers that actually block the entry of the foreign agents like pathogens into our body. And there are four main types of such barriers. As you can see in this sketch, innate immunity is basically consists of four types of barriers. Number one is the physical barrier. Number second is the physiological barrier. Number third is the cellular barrier. And number fourth is the cytokine barrier. So far, this physical barrier is concerned. This physical barrier constitutes skin on our body. Skin is basically a main physical barrier which blocks the entry of foreign organisms or foreign disease-producing germs into our body. In addition to the skin, mucus coating of the epithelial lining of respiratory tract, gastrointestinal tract, and urinogenital tracts. Also, hairs on the body also act as a non-specific physical barrier that somehow blocks the entry of foreign disease-producing germs or antigens into our body. Now, the second barrier is known as physiological barrier. This barrier includes, for example, a secretion of hydrochloric acid in the stomach, saliva in the mouth, also the tears from eyes. These tears are also having the lysozyme enzymes, which actually have an antibacterial effect. Now all these secretions prevent microbial growth non-specifically. Now the third barrier is the cellular barrier. The cellular barrier includes certain types of leukocytes, that is white blood cells. The most important cellular barrier consists of PMNL, it's abbreviated for polymorphonuclear leukocytes, which are also known as neutrophils, and also by monocytes and natural killer cells, which are basically the type of lymphocytes. In addition to these cells, macrophages in our tissues can phagocytose and destroy the disease-producing microbes or germs. This constitutes the cellular barrier. Now, the fourth barrier is what we call as cytokine barrier. Now, virus-infected cells secrete a protein known as interferons. These that protect non-infected cells from further viral infections. These interferons were actually discovered by Elik Isaac and J. Lindenman. These interferons are basically glycoproteins produced by the virus-infected cells. The interferons do not kill the virus but bind to the host cells. Now, this binding to the host cells triggers the synthesis of antiviral proteins by the host cells, and these antiviral proteins block the synthesis of the proteins which are actually required for the viral replication. Thus, these interferons restrict the growth of these viruses and constitute the cytokine barriers. In addition to these four barriers of innate immunity, it also includes other barriers like chemotaxis and inflammatory barrier. And in our next topic, we will discuss in detail about the inflammatory barrier of innate immunity. Until then, goodbye.